Throughout history, Native American tribes have fought to protect their lands, cultures, and way of life. But not all of their leaders stood against the tide of U.S. expansion. Some, willingly or not, made choices that led to them being branded as traitors by their own people. Was it survival, a calculated strategy, or simply betrayal? In this video, we uncover the controversial stories of 3 Native Americans who, for better or worse, sided with the United States against their own people. And we begin with one of the most debated figures in Native American history, Ely Parker. I'm on a mission to reach 800 subscribers, and I need your help. I put a lot of effort into making these history videos, and if you enjoy them, the best way to support is by hitting subscribe. It's free and really helps the channel grow. Let's hit 800 together. Now, let's dive into today's story. Born in 1828, Ely Samuel Parker was a full-blooded Seneca, a member of the Iroquois Confederacy. From a young age, he was exposed to 2 worlds, the traditions of his people and the expanding influence of the United States. Unlike many Native Americans of his time, Parker was encouraged to pursue Western education. He studied engineering and law, but because of his heritage, he was barred from becoming a lawyer. Despite this setback, Parker found work as an engineer, even helping to build U.S. infrastructure, an early sign that he was moving closer to the American government. When the Civil War broke out, Parker attempted to join the Union Army. But once again, his Native American identity was used against him. He was initially denied entry. However, his friendship with Ulysses Grant changed everything. Grant, who would later become the 18th President of the United States, saw Parker's intelligence and skill, making him his military secretary. This wasn't just any position. Parker played a key role in the surrender of Confederate General Robert Lee at Appomattox in 1865. In fact, it was Ely Parker who physically wrote the terms of surrender that ended the war. After the war, Parker was appointed as the first Native American Commissioner of Indian Affairs under President Grant. It seemed like a victory. Finally, a Native leader in a position of power. But instead of protecting tribal sovereignty, Parker became one of the key enforcers of assimilation policies. Under his leadership, Native American lands were increasingly taken away, and tribes were forced onto reservations under harsh conditions. Parker believed that resistance was futile and that assimilation was the only way for Native Americans to survive in the United States. To many Native Americans, this was the ultimate betrayal. Rather than fighting for tribal autonomy, Parker helped implement policies that stripped Native people of their land, traditions, and independence. The Seneca, his own people, turned against him. He was accused of being too close to the U.S. government, and by the time he resigned in 1871, his reputation among Native Americans was ruined. After leaving office, Parker faded into obscurity. He struggled financially, working low-paying jobs just to survive. The U.S. government he had served so loyally did little to support him in his later years. He died in 1895, with history divided on how to remember him. Was Ely Parker a man who did what he thought was best for his people? Or was he simply another tool in the U.S. government's long campaign to erase Native identity? Ely Parker's story was one of loyalty torn between 2 worlds, but he wasn't the only one who made choices that branded him a traitor. Some betrayals were driven by ambition, others by survival. Major Ridge was once a respected Cherokee warrior, a leader who fought for his people. But in the end, he made a decision that would seal his fate, the signing of a treaty that cost the Cherokee their homeland. To some, he was a visionary. To others, the man who sold out his own nation. This is the story of Major Ridge. Born in the 1770s in what is now Tennessee, Major Ridge grew up during a turbulent time. The Cherokee Nation, like many other tribes, was constantly pressured by American settlers and the U.S. government. Ridge was not just a leader. He was a warrior, known for fighting alongside the Americans in battles against other native tribes, and even the British during the War of 1812. His reputation as a fierce warrior and negotiator earned him a powerful position within the Cherokee Nation. But as white settlers continued to encroach on Cherokee lands, Ridge faced an impossible choice: resist or adapt. By the 1820s, the Cherokee Nation was trying to survive by adopting aspects of American society. They built schools, formed a government, and even had a newspaper written in the Cherokee language. But none of this mattered to the U.S. government, which wanted Cherokee lands for white settlers. In 1830, President Andrew Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, effectively sealing the fate of the Cherokee. The Cherokee leadership, led by Principal Chief John Ross, fiercely opposed relocation, believing they could fight removal through legal means. But Major Ridge saw things differently. Ridge believed resistance was futile. He saw how other tribes were being forcibly removed and concluded that negotiating a treaty was the only way to save Cherokee lives. In 1835, he and a small faction of Cherokee leaders, without the approval of the majority, signed the Treaty of New Echota, agreeing to sell all Cherokee lands east of the Mississippi for $5 million and relocate to Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma. To Ridge and his supporters, this was a necessary compromise. But to the majority of Cherokee, this was outright betrayal. Despite Cherokee protests, the U.S. government enforced the treaty. In 1838, the military rounded up thousands of Cherokee and forced them on a brutal march to Oklahoma, an event now known as the Trail of Tears. Nearly 4,000 Cherokee men, women, and children died from disease, starvation, and exposure. Major Ridge, his son John Ridge, and Elias Boudinot, the leaders who signed the treaty, were already in Indian Territory, believing they had saved their people from worse suffering. But those who survived the Trail of Tears saw things differently. They held Ridge personally responsible for their suffering. In 1839, a secret council of Cherokee leaders sentenced Major Ridge, his son John Ridge, and Elias Boudinot to death for their betrayal. That same year, they were all assassinated by Cherokee warriors. Ridge was shot multiple times while riding his horse. His son was dragged from his home and stabbed, and Boudinot was ambushed outside his house. To the Cherokee Nation, justice had been served. But was Ridge truly a traitor, or was he a leader who made an impossible choice? We've seen how Major Ridge's decision to sign away Cherokee lands led to his brutal execution. But he wasn't the only Native leader who faced deadly consequences for working with the U.S. government. Our next story takes us to the Muskogee Creek Nation, where one man's actions led to his violent downfall, William McIntosh. William McIntosh was born in the 1770s to a Creek mother and a Scottish father. Unlike many full-blooded Creek leaders, McIntosh was mixed race. He spoke English fluently, wore European-style clothing, and embraced many aspects of white culture. This gave him unique advantages. He was wealthy, owned plantations, and even enslaved black people, something uncommon among Native leaders. But his ties to the U.S. would ultimately lead to his downfall. During the early 1800s, the Creek Nation was deeply divided between two factions. The Upper Creeks, or Red Sticks, wanted to resist American influence and preserve their traditions. The Lower Creeks, including McIntosh, believed in working with the U.S. to avoid destruction. This division exploded into violence during the Creek War of 1813 to 1814, where McIntosh sided with the U.S. military against his own people. He helped Andrew Jackson crush the Red Stick resistance at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, securing a U.S. victory but at the cost of massive Creek land losses. For his loyalty, McIntosh was rewarded with power and prestige, but his willingness to cooperate with the U.S. would soon make him a target among his own people. By the 1820s, the U.S. government wanted more Creek land, and they knew exactly who to approach. In 1825, McIntosh and a small group of Lower Creek leaders secretly signed the Treaty of Indian Springs. This treaty sold nearly all Creek land in Georgia to the U.S. without the approval of the Creek National Council. This was a direct violation of Creek law, which stated that no land could be sold without national consent. McIntosh had not only gone behind his people's backs, but he had also signed away their future. The Creek Nation did not take this betrayal lightly. The traditionalist leaders, furious over the unauthorized land sale, sentenced McIntosh to death. On April 30th, 1825, a band of Red Stick warriors surrounded his plantation home in present-day Georgia. Despite his status and wealth, McIntosh had no escape. His house was burned to ground, and he was dragged outside. The warriors stabbed and shot him multiple times, making an example of what happens to those who betray their people.